Episode 4 of The Acolyte. Welcome to another episode of Chew the Fat. I've got a couple of special panelists on tonight, in addition to my usual co-host. Just going to say at the beginning, as I've said at the beginning of every one of these, I am a big Star Wars fan. I queued up as a kid to see it in the 1970s. I haven't disliked all new Star Wars content. Some new Star Wars content I have liked very much. Some I've been a bit indifferent to. And, some has been better than others. But some stuff is just not very good. And then we can get into why. And now I've tried to be constructive with every one of these because everyone's going for the jugular where this show is concerned. And I do like to try and start off neutrally and say, okay, let's have a look at it, see if it's any good. But it's getting quite hard. It's getting quite hard to be like that with this show. I've got to say, it's getting quite tough. And then, of course, we have the biggest division it's not really that big, actually. It's really kind of like more like 80% people feel one way about this show, and people feel another way about it. Is definitely in the minority, I'm starting to feel. It's not quite as evenly split as some things have been in the past. People are asking everyone, what kind of Star Wars fan are you? Well, we're about to find out because we're going to get into that. But one of the things I really want to look at tonight, because I think it's the core thing that's fundamentally wrong with this show, is the dialogue. Every script starts with dialogue, and that's really where it all begins. So we're really going to look at the dialogue, particularly of this episode, and you can tell me whether it's Emmy worthy or whether it's most unworthy. So before I ask my panelists, what kind of Star Wars fan are you? Let's bring people in, but I want to hear your comments in the chat. Okay, I want to hear what you think about this show. Do you like it? And what kind of Star Wars fan are you? A critic is not negativity. Yeah, I'm not just here just to tear it down. Okay, so let's bring in first of all my regular co-host. Here he is.
This is scalding hot, and it hurts less than watching the show. Like, I'm not holding them by the handle; just it burns.
Now, we in order to have balance, this friend of mine has he said, "Look, I'm such a huge fan of this show. I have to come on. I love this like no other Star Wars." So I said, "Okay, well, it's good to have some diverse opinions."
Oh yeah.
So we got Dark Hour with us today. How you doing, bud?
He never drinks on camera. Son of a bitch, here.
Well, I'm on the
straight tequila.
I'm on
That's
the
how
Evian.
I'm doing.
I'm not a big drinker. I'm on the Evian as always.
Screw it.
All right, I'm gonna do a little breakdown of this episode first. For anyone who hasn't seen the plot, there's some Jedi. They go after some kids. The kids are with a big group of women. Women die, and one of the kids is evil. The other one isn't. Blah blah blah. Okay, yeah. That's the plot so far. Right. So you really don't need me to do a recap. You can just there's a recap at the beginning of every episode that cuts into the running time.
Just watch my recap video.
Yeah, you can. Dark Hour's just done a labor of love about why he loves the Acolyte. I'll send you the link for that shortly. So okay, well let's get into it. So this is episode 4. Okay, May arrives at the Wookiee planet. I can't remember the name of it. She's there basically to kill the Wookiee.
Kofar.
She's got her sidekick with her. Okay, now I've got so much to say about this character. I'm guessing he's kind of in love with May, but we're going to come back to him. In the meantime, and he's a nonsense character, by the way. In the meantime, Osha, May's twin sister, also played by the same actress, goes back to Coruscant, the kind of center of the galaxy, if you like, where she goes and has a meeting with various Jedi. There's an actress in that meeting that I've actually directed in a play. We've got the bald-headed green Jedi, who is an absolutely terrible actress. So I'm not going to pull any punches. And I don't know why she's actually. I do know why they I believe they're connected to somebody in the show.
Yeah, Jedi Master nepotism. Yeah.
Sol goes to find Osha, so they have some dialogue. Absolutely terrible dialogue in that scene, which again I'm going to come back to. Then we have Pip, this kind of hamster thing. We have this hamster thing that starts talking to Pip. Why the hamster thing starts talking to Pip? Beyond anybody else in the room is purely for comedy, at which point we learn that Pip can actually wee, has the ability to wee, which is very important for a computer portable device. That's
it's like the first Transformers.
Yeah, I mean any electronic device, you want it to carry water. That's very important for it to function properly. So I think there's then a pronoun comment. Anyway, we've then got this great dialogue. We're looking for a Wookiee. He's big and hairy. I mean, most people in the galaxy will know what a Wookiee is by this time, I would imagine. Therefore, you know, saying he's a Wookiee, you probably don't need to say he's big and hairy. They go to the Wookiee planet. Well, it's not the Wookiee planet, the planet that the Wookiee's on. They're wandering around some trees. There's some forest bugs. There's briefly a kind of thing with a forest bug. And then somebody actually says the line, you're losing your narrative. No shit. Suddenly May decides to change sides, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. She gives reasons for it, which are just reasons. They don't make any sense. Then we have this choice piece of dialogue. This is different. I feel different, comes the reply.
we all feel different watching this show.
Jesus Christ, who wrote this? And then they find the Wookiee's dead already, and then they find the evil guy's on the planet, and he's got a face like Venom, and they draw their lightsabers, but guess what? He's got even more powerful powers than they have. Whoosh, sends them all back, cut to credits, end of episode. I mean, That's it. That's basically what happens in episode 4. That is a brief summary. Okay, we're done. So we'll be back next week.
Yeah, it's a good stream.
Yeah, they really front loaded this episode with exposition, and then there was like 10 minutes of nothing.
It's lots of walking. Lots.
Yeah.
It's really, I mean, okay. Let me try and be constructive, because I've done this with every episode so far. Was there anything in this episode I liked? Well, funnily enough, the one thing that I did like was I went, oh, hey, that's that guy from the prequels. He's back in it. That's kind of cool. Now, I didn't know that his character was not actually alive in this time period. And that was actually that Star Wars lore. That's canon. It was on the Wikipedia page. He had a birth date and everything. Guess what? That birth date has now been altered, because somebody fucking forgot to check, didn't they? When they wrote the script. I mean, seriously, you're getting paid thousands of dollars to write every episode of this. You're getting paid thousands of dollars. You can't fucking go on Wikipedia to check a fact. What's wrong with you? This is written by lazy, incompetent morons.
Yes, Lance.
I just this is the first time I'm ever losing my shit on my channel.
I can feel the anger.
It literally is. And you've got an IP that's one of the most beloved in the world, and you can't even. Okay, you have a writers' room meeting. Wouldn't it be cool if we brought in that character, one or two of the characters from the prequels, some of the Jedi elders, which actually is a cool idea. Great. Well, let's check when they were born. Check when they're born. They're born at this time. Okay, so that means we're going to need to set the show 130 years in the past, not 90. Cool, let's do that. Simple script change. This is what happens in a writer's room. What do they do? What do they do in the room?
They can't even get internal consistency within one conversation, nevertheless, from episode to episode or movie to movie or anything like that. They contradict each other from line to line throughout this entire show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a little sort of subplot between these two where, first of all, we think it's like a goodbye scene. It's all kind of set up to be shall we say, girl on girl tension, love interest. I personally don't care about that. That's fine. They can like each other. It's all good. But the thing about Star Wars is it is a fantasy. It's a fantasy space opera. It's not supposed to be like Star Trek, where Star Trek actually is Earth in the future. Therefore, we're going to replicate similar politics and clash of cultures and stories that actually we want to explore that are contemporary in Earth now. Star Wars is supposed to be pure escapism. It's forget about your job, forget about your work. Let's go and watch people fly cool ships, fire cool laser guns, rescue people, and see the bad guys get taken down. It's pretty simple, good and evil stuff. It doesn't need to be overly complicated. It certainly doesn't need to have pronouns or sexual politics.
Speaking of,
and I just Ollie, good Lance, good. Let the hate flow through you. I have lost my shit a bit today because I've tried to be really impartial and constructive about this show with my previous reviews. I've tried to look at positive things that I like about it, but it's just beyond poor. This is absolutely atrocious television.
And speaking of, here's the best line in the entire episode.
What's that? That's Basil. Is he or they with us?
Yeah.
There it is.
And also, there's another furry creature called Basil, who is in British television folklore, and I'm wondering if they named him after that. I'm going to see if I can get you an image of him. Hold on. And he was called Basil, and he's kind of like a small furry creature. And actually, he would have been better. Yeah. So his here you go. Yeah, here we go. Let me put this. Let me put this up. Just take that down for a sec. This is my favorite Basil. Basil Brush. He's like a fox thing that has a really silly laugh. Basil Brush. Now, if they put him in it, that probably would have been quite good compared to this anyway. Oh man, it's just like nothing in this show makes any sense, man. It's nothing in it.
They just couldn't help themselves with that too. There was no need for that line. They could have just left it as "Is he with us?" and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
But they had to assign a possible they them.
Or they could have just said, are they with us?
Yeah, or are they with us? Yeah.
Yeah, just don't bring all that politics into it. It's
by saying he or they, it makes it political as opposed to just saying are they.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure what this is.
Yeah. They could have said, "Is it with us?
Is it with us?" Yeah, exactly.
That would have been quite funny. Sort of not sure what to call it as an alien.
Because at this point she doesn't know what it is. It could be a male or female. How would you know? It's a little otter creature.
It's I called it a space gopher.
Yeah.
That's what I called
yeah.
it.
Do you know what? That's exactly what it reminds me of, man.
It reminds me of the gopher from
Caddyshack. Yeah.
Let's watch that. I want to watch a good movie.
I think I have Caddyshack on next year's schedule. I'll make sure to get you on that one.
Oh yeah, listen, get me on that. I'm a big fan of that.
I'm not scheduling anybody for next year yet. Don't worry. It's just the actual movies are scheduled. But
of course, you guys know these lines happen to come out in what this is a certain month again, the month of June. Wonder what's going on this month.
Here's the thing. I'd like to point out that we skipped it a little bit though. If you go back slightly, you don't have to do this. I'll just tell you exactly. Oh, we're gonna do the I'm all right.
Well, just tell us while we're watching this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when they're having their little powwow with all the Jedi who decide just fuck like protocols. We're not even gonna tell the Jedi elders because that'll work out well.
Yeah.
But my favorite thing is when you have a back and forth where I, as the viewer, can see that you don't know what the hell you're writing. And that was, we need some, I don't know the exact wording. I have it written down somewhere, but it was like, we need something that she wants to get her to come back with us. You're looking at him. She wants the 4 Jedi Masters. You're talking to one of those 4 Jedi Masters.
Yeah.
You don't need to get Osha involved. You already have one of her objectives in your possession, and you know where the other one is. You might not know the exact location, but you know the planet. Like it's Osha. It was one of the most ass backwards ways to get her to come along with them. They could have come up with so much better written way to do it, and instead they were like, "No, we need to use you as bait again." Like,
do you guys feel we're going to see more of? I mean, not that you care, but let's pretend we do for a minute. Do you feel we're going to go back to that flashback again?
Yeah.
And we're
I wouldn't.
We're going to see more of what happened there. There's going to be some kind of reveal. Let's get what's he called? Ashtabanti.
It's like
Kiadi
it's like Dark Hour just said. There's the
Gary
one where it's like about talking to High Council.
This is the actress on the right that I directed in a play, by the way.
The High Council.
The High Council would be obliged to inform the Senate.
Yeah, I mean,
Jedi Master nepotism over here.
Right.
But
so
that's by the way, that's Leslie Headland's wife. That's the one you were.
Well, I immaterial of who they are.
I'm just saying that was the connection that you were mentioning before.
I was curious to find out how much acting they'd done, because any role in a Star Wars IP is a coveted actor's dream. You've got kids that would have grown up with Star Wars who are in their 40s or 50s now, who are actors, who would love to play a role on a Jedi Council, and who are fucking good, who are quality actors, you know, extremely seasoned actors. Indra Ovi, who's on the left, is a very experienced actress. You know, like I said, I directed her in a show and she was very good. I'm curious to see how many acting credits. What is this character's name?
Her actual name is Master Venestra.
Master Venestra.
Yeah, Venestra.
Might as well be Master Vagina.
She was the star of a very, underselling book about the High Republic. So,
right. So is it Rebecca Henderson? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so she was in Russian Doll, which is a Leslie Headland show, right? Okay, which I've seen. I thought it was quite a good show, actually. I quite enjoyed that show. But her acting credits are not insignificant, but Single Drunk Female, unless I'm mistaken, is also predominantly is that not was Leslie Headland not involved in that? I think Leslie Headland directed episodes of Single Drunk Female, right?
I'm looking it up for you.
No, she did. She directed episodes of that. I remember checking before. So she was involved in that. Maybe they met on that, but they probably met on Russian Doll, because Russian Doll was, I think, created by Headland, or certainly she directed. And
Russian Doll was almost entirely Leslie Headland.
Right. I actually enjoyed that. That was a fun show. That it's kind of Groundhog Day, with a girl trapped in this party that on the same day again and again and again. But just like, this is, man bites dog. I said this pretty much before you came on. Fuck the law, fuck writing, fuck structure, power of one, power of two, power of shit. It's pretty bad now. It's jumped the shark on this episode for me. I don't know if I can tolerate much more of this. I do want to know what people think. If you like the show, if it's
I've yet to find a single person. Even there has been in the comments of my video, there has been, normally you get a back and forth. People like, oh, you're being. I've had maybe 2 or 3 comments where people were defending this show. So
hang on a minute. There's a film critic guy on my Facebook called Danny Stewart. I got him to come on last week, but I had to go late. Week. He couldn't make it. But let me see if I can get him on.
Did you guys? I busted out laughing with the dialogue when they kill the bug and at the lightsaber. Hey, look, it's attracted to the light. I'm like, hey, look, you got a big bug zapper.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that whole sequence, they play it up like there's this huge danger. It reminded me kind
Yes.
of if you
Cockroaches.
recall in the King Kong film, Kong on Skull Island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they're walking through the woods and the giant spider with the bamboo legs are killing them. It reminded me of that, but it was handled in about 5 seconds and they just moved on. It was another pointless moment that didn't need to be done. Like, why did you even do this? This was wasted screen time.
That sequence was sorry, it's Stuart Bannerman is the person. That sequence in Kong Skull Island is actually probably I thought was probably the best sequence in that movie.
With the giant bamboo spider, and you don't know that it's that they don't realize it's underneath it.
Yeah, it's really clever. You don't realize that they're the legs, you know.
Yeah. And but this was completely pointless. There's nothing like, first of all, there's like probably a couple dozen of them there.
Yeah.
They kill one and then they just move on with their lives.
Yeah,
Now,
I know. I thought they were going to turn into like a big swarm and actually become dangerous, but it was just like, no, we can't afford. Somebody probably around the table said, yeah, that'd be a good idea. No, we can't afford that. That's too much. Okay, what can we afford? You can slice one in half.
I love the line. It went right for the saber. It's attracted to light, like most bugs.
It's essentially the writers can't come up with anything better, so it's the first thing that comes to mind. Oh, bug zappers. Yeah, we'll just do that. It's
when you say it out loud.
Yeah,
that's real power lightsabers, bug zappers. Everyone's got them.
Yeah, I mean, it's only one step above, space flypaper. That's the next thing that's going to show up. It's just a big sticky strip of paper, and then be like, "Look, we're good."
Don't give them ideas.
Professor R2, we're halfway through this show, and it's done nothing of note besides kill some Jedi and introduce a pointless coven of witches.
Which, even the worst part is the second Jedi. She didn't kill him. He killed himself with poison.
Yeah,
it's even worse. Like, I killed two of them. Technically, you didn't.
Jedi first white guy in the show.
Yep.
This man, this show is. I just like this show, right? If I had pitched this as a 50-year-old white guy with this dialogue and I'd submitted these scripts, they would tell me to fuck off, and quite rightly so. Quite rightly so.
Probably put you in jail for a couple of days.
They would be like, "What? This is nonsense. What are you talking about?" They would have, honestly, and I don't know. Maybe kids are digging this. I don't know. Are kids digging this? Has anyone got any kids that are watching this?
I don't, but I have seen, like I said, I've seen zero defense of this show. Not anybody is defending it. So,
well, Lance, you and Dark Hour know enough about my son, but we go see Return of the King. Hey, buddy, so for Lance's channel, watch episode 1 and 2 Acolyte. Want to watch it? First thing, Dad, I'm not watching that shit.
Well, I'll tell you what, in the interest of balance, because I do like to be balanced here, let's go on to X and chuck in the Acolyte hashtag, and let's see if anyone is defending it, and if they are, let's see what they say. Now, I bet, and I haven't looked this up yet, but I bet, right, that if they are defending it, their defense of it will be about bashing people who are criticizing it.
Of course.
I don't think they'll be mentioning the things about the show that are good, because I'd be hard pushed. But okay, right. Listen now, Mr. Bannerman has accepted my invitation. I'm very grateful to him. I mean, he's not somebody who's saying that he thinks the show's brilliant. He thinks the show's okay. So let me bring Stuart on. Hi, Stuart. Welcome to the channel.
Hello. Thank you for the invite. I've just finished watching the Ryan Reynolds film If, so I'm in a really good mood. So don't kill my mood. Don't kill it, please.
I like that movie.
That's funny because a good friend of mine got to hang out with Ryan Reynolds at Pinewood Film Studios today. So
nice.
That's a whole other conversation. Well, I've tried to be very constructive. If you probably haven't seen any of my previous things about this show, but I have tried to be very constructive. I've tried to say, okay, what's good about each episode first. This episode for me is beyond poor. Just the standard of the writing is absolutely appalling. And I mean, I say that as a writing professional, but just also even average writing on an average show is better than this. And this is a Star Wars IP. And if anyone I know had pitched or submitted this script, it would have been rejected. So now you say that the show's fine, but don't you think the standard should be higher than fine? Or
Totally. Yep. I am of the viewpoint that I'm enjoying the Acolyte. I've seen all 4 I've seen the 4 episodes so far. They've entertained me. They're too short. I don't get this whole 32 minutes, including a previously on and credits.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
For the love of God, make them longer. Could it be better? Yep. Should it be better? Yes. Does it entertain me enough to go, do you know what? I've kind of forgotten about the fact we've got a general election coming in the UK, or that I've no money in the bank or whatever. Yes, it does. It entertains me. It's fine. But 100%, all the things you said, Lance, it could be better. It should be better. It's Star Wars. It looks like a Star Wars TV show. You know, if you compare how the Acolyte looks to how House of the Dragon looks, miles apart. And yet the Acolyte, I believe, costs more money than House of the Dragon, which
like triple.
Is mind-blowing.
We've been singing the praises of House of the Dragon, which I think is an absolutely astonishing show. But okay, so again, in the interest of balance, tell us what are the things that you like about it, or what are the things that you think it gets right? Well, that's quite a small list for me, but it's not a zero list for me. For some people, it's 0, but for me, there are a few things I like about the show. But you tell me what are the things you like about it.
I'm easy to please when it comes to entertainment. I've watched I've just finished watching If. It's my 129th film I've seen this year, so I've watched quite a few, but not as many as others. It's very accessible. It's the Acolyte. You don't have to have done a lot of homework. I didn't watch Ahsoka because everybody's like, "Oh, you've got to watch the Clone Wars to do." I'm not interested in ticking off things on a spreadsheet. If I've got to watch a show, I just want to jump in and watch it. It's very accessible. It's entertaining. I come from a time when the only Star Wars we had after the original trilogy was Caravan of Courage and Battle for Endor. Not good times. Many, many years before we got any Star Wars.
Indeed, yes, I remember those painful times myself.
People forget those, I think, and probably for a good reason. It's an easy show to watch, and I understand people who go online and go, do you know what? I don't like it. I think the Acolyte's terrible. Don't like the writing or whatever it is, but I think there's a huge difference between that and the people that are going online and being real nitpicky and real vicious. And I had it last week, for example, where I went, I liked it. People are like, you're wrong. You didn't like. I did like it. Why can you like it? Blah, blah. Because I liked it. It was fine. Not every Star Wars project or every film or every TV show has to be something that would go in my top 10, and it doesn't have to be life-changing. Just entertain me. And I'm a cheap date. I'm easy. It's just like entertain me, and I'm fine. So it's easy, accessible. It's very easy to watch. It has its pretty scenes, and it takes me away from real life sometimes. So I know that's probably not 4. It's probably 3, but
fair enough.
I'm a cheap date.
I like to consider myself as more of a moderately priced date. One thing I can't stand, because for me with every show, it always starts about a script, and I just, if they can't get the script right, we had some pretty atrocious dialogue last week, but there were some things about last week that I liked, but not many, but some that a lot of people didn't like, and the song was not one of them. For anyone who's listening, wondering if I liked the song, I did not like the song. But I quite like the idea of the Jedi making a mistake in the past and having to pay for it in the present. I think that as a concept, as a story thread, is interesting. That was one of the things I think, and I was looking forward to seeing how they were going to explore that. It's just anyway. But okay, so let's hear a counter argument. Blue, I know you're quite quick with your summaries, so I'll let you go first, and then
I was just bored this episode. I don't know. It feels like
you were just bored.
yeah, but it's like Dark Hour we'll get into. The problem you're having now with these fandoms is that Star Wars is such a massive IP that you have to try to appease what they would call normies and, of course, diehard nerds. Dark Hour knows this as a comic book fan. It takes a very skilled writer and director and anybody to please comic book fans, but also people who've never read a comic book. There's people out there, I consider myself an average Star Wars fan versus people who've read every single comic, every single book that know way more than I ever will. That's the hard part. And this is really seems like for the most part, you're never going to 100% please your fans or 100% hate your fans. You're going to have one or two people that love it or hate it, but we are seeing, I think, since the internet has become pretty big and Disney took over, I still think this is the biggest part of the vast majority of people really hate this stuff. And the ratings are indicative of that, narrative. Like, look at the ratings now. It's not even, it's
What
become
were they?
it's like according to them, according to Disney, because they never tell us directly, we only go by what they let out that this is the lowest viewed Star Wars show ever, and that's that's coming from Disney. But on top of the budget, a show like this does not warrant a budget of like $200 million. It's
Yeah,
embarrassing.
we did a breakdown of where we think that budget went last week, and
Yeah.
we think Kathleen Kennedy's probably bought a couple of new properties along with Leslie
Yeah.
Headland.
But
So-
Dark Hour can tell you too. There's even lore that I didn't pick up on it. He even knows, and I'm like, just the more you read this lore, you're like, what, guys? It's not hard to. We have the internet. Look this stuff up. It takes 10 seconds to look this stuff up.
Dark Hour just did a video. Probably won't be to your taste, Stuart, but it's already got.
Oh, I'm sure I'll love it, Darth.
It's already got 34,000 views. I'm not going to show the actual video, but it's got the imaginatively. Oh wait, sorry, that's the wrong screen. Let's go to a different bit. It's got the imaginative title.
The title and the
Acolyte, a lesbian power fantasy. There you go.
Oh no.
So
I'm
Dark
jealous
Hour-
of your views,
okay.
but not the title.
Dark Hour,
look, in
explain-
fairness, you
give
do
us-
need to be a bit over the top with your titles. Let's just be.
I mean,
silly.
I do suspect you're grooming for views a little bit, but
a little bit, but
give us your don't give me a 10-minute speech on it. But
no, I'll try to keep it brief.
But yeah, I mean, I know you're not a fan of it.
No, so brief about me. I grew up as a Star Wars fan. I was one of like 3 kids in my elementary school that liked it and had to be one of those. I was one of those ones that bridged the gap between the early 80s and then the late 90s when it came back, So that's how I always felt. And I agree with you that this show doesn't require a lot of research. And the reason why I agree with you is because clearly the writers didn't do any research either. So you don't need to do research because even if you did, it doesn't matter. You actually are doing yourself a disservice if you do research, because what they're going to do is they're going to go into their own lore page, their own Wikipedia, and they're going to change it after the fact, which is what they did with this episode. My biggest issue, though, I know that we're talking mostly about the dialogue here, so I'll stick to that, is that from scene to scene, from line to line, and even in the own conversations, sometimes they are always contradicting themselves or not thinking ahead far enough to write competently. In the previous episode, it was just contradiction after contradiction. Literally a conversation. The Jedi don't take children. They're here to take our children. We don't take children. Do you want to come with me? Someone was paid to write that.
Yeah.
Someone was paid to write that, exchange. You have a similar one in this episode. And I said it backstage, actually, where you have this May, who, might I add, I just found out today that OSHA May is actually a soap brand. So they didn't even, that's where they got the names from. I just found that out today. But you have this conversation between who I'm calling Jedi Master Nepotism, Venestra, who's played by Leslie Headland's wife, and Saul. And first they go, oh, we're not going to get anybody else involved. We're not going to let the Jedi High Council know about this. Then they recruit like 9 other Jedi to come with them. I'm sure the High Council would notice that sort of thing. Like, oh, you're just taking a small battalion of our people. And then also on top of that, they're in the conversation. We need something that May is after to coax her out. Okay, she's after 4 Jedi Masters, one of which is the person you're talking to. So you already have that. So it's just a lazy way that requires the script gets her sister involved. Oh, we'll use her for bait. It's just all of the, and that's just 2 examples of they can't seem to keep an internal consistency from conversation to conversation. And that's not even taking into account the visuals, which I don't particularly like. They're not the worst I've ever seen. But when it comes to a show or any kind of series for films, you need to have the most basic idea of how to keep continuity, and they can't even do that. And that even goes, like I said, the main one is the banner that's going down at the bottom. All they had to do, like Blue Collar said, was Google when this guy was born, and then in the writing room go, hey, we made a mistake in the amount of years. Can we set this 150 or can we set this only 50 years before that? Or there's so many small mistakes that keep cropping up like that.
I mean, I have to say, Stuart, that the thing that really angered me about that is that they are getting paid thousands of dollars to write this show. It's the sorts of paychecks that creatives like you and myself could only dream of on an average day, you know. And I've been a full-time writer since 1997, and okay, all right. If you, I can understand the logic of not wanting to employ a diehard Star Wars writer to write a Star Wars show. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a good writer, because the most important thing is to employ someone who understands narrative and pace and story beats and things like that. You know, just basic writing skills, really. But it is quite important, nevertheless, to just. Okay, well, it'd be cool to have that guy in from the Clones prequels. Great, let's put him in. All right, cool. Would he be alive in this timeline? I don't know. Let's check. That's a pretty.
Yeah.
What were they doing in the writers' room? Were they just all on so much cocaine that
they made a mistake? It happens. I mean, shall we talk about the X-Men franchise? The timeline.
Oh, that's a mess in and of itself. They don't even age in 40 years.
Furious? You know,
that's another stream. I wouldn't listen.
Wait a minute. You want to use the Fast and the Furious?
No, anything in the Fast and Furious to make sense.
No, but
Fast
it's like,
Furious has got a submarine chasing people under the ice.
I mean, that's insane. But it's I'm not justifying the fact that they made a mistake with this and everybody, but a lot of people have zoned in on this birth date of this character and they're like, let's kill the show. And again, it's like, I have no issue with people saying I don't like it. But you mentioned the writing, lads. Is some of that because you write for a living? Because there's a friend of mine who's a filmmaker. Neil won't see this, but he's a filmmaker. And I messaged him saying, I've watched The Acolyte 4. What did you think? And he went, oh, look at this shot, and that shot's different. And I didn't notice any of that. It's like, look, there's mist in that shot, but there's no mist in that one. And because he does that for a living, he's zoned in on that. Maybe you've done the same with the writing.
I don't think so, man. I think, like, look, a line of dialogue, one of the lines of dialogue actually says you're losing your narrative. No one talks like that, even in Star Wars. And then somebody says, this is different. And their response is, I feel different. And it was almost acted like that as well. And I thought, this is just awful.
Yeah, somebody acted Israel, Pete, and there's no classic dialogue along the lines of cover me, Porkins. So we are missing that Oscar-winning dialogue.
I actually can't. But there should be some cool, like, okay, we're never going to replicate the Han Solo. Yeah, I bet you have. Boom and whatnot. And that got retconned. But in every Star Wars show, there should be one cool moment per episode. There should be one really cool line per episode, minimum.
Yeah.
And that should not be hard to write. I think a skilled writer could do that. These writers should be competent, at least. I mean, honestly, if somebody told me this script was written by AI, I would believe them.
Lance, can you share my screen real quick?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So this has been going around. There's been a bunch of these. This is the first one in the Google search. But Leslie Headland has stated multiple times she hired writers that have not seen Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all. You don't need to show it for. You can drop it now. I just wanted to show it real quick. But you I think that a standard for writing for a series is that you're at least familiar with the series. You don't need to be an expert, like we said. You can they could hire some sort of continuity czar or whatever term you want to use, somebody who's read all the books, watched all the movies 1,000 times. They could do that. And probably cheap too. You probably just get like a freelance kind of thing.
Some people probably do it for free. Just
they probably would, to be honest with you. But I think a bare minimum standard is that and we've seen it with the actors too in a lot of Star Wars properties, but this one specifically, where one of the main characters didn't even realize that it was Luke that destroyed the Death Star. There's a huge push within this brand to separate it from who it's originally meant for. And I understand that it's you want to have a brand, especially when you're a company like Disney or a large company like that. You want to have the fingers and as many cookie jars as you can get them, right? And you want to be able to get as many people to watch your product, but you still need to have an understanding of the product you're trying to push. And if you're hiring specifically people who have never seen Star Wars, you're not going to get a good Star Wars product.
Yeah.
Great. Here's a question for you guys though. Is some of this not greatness about, I don't want to say terrible, because let's say I'm enjoying the Acolyte, it's fine. Is it the fallout of the Bob Chapek era? You know, the quick, do as much as possible fast and get it out the door? Because this would have been in production around that time.
5 years ago was when they started production on this show.
Really? Wow. It was like last week.
Also,
it was one of the shows that got delayed by the pandemic, if I remember. There was a big slate of Star Wars stuff that was announced, including Rogue Squadron that we never got. That got cancelled. It was going to be directed by the Wonder Woman director. And there was a whole load of other things that just never happened. You know, but some of them we got Boba Fett, we got Mandalorian, we got Obi-Wan. And I mean, I don't want to get into which ones of those are any good. But that's for another time. But this show feels to me very discombobulated. It feels like it's a bit like the recent sequels. I would have thought as a filmmaker, you're doing 3 new Star Wars films and you're going to have some of the original actors back. You're probably going to sit down and go, okay, this is going to happen in the first film. This is going to happen in the second film. And the third film's going to end like this. And it might not have a full script for each of the movies, but you'd have a detailed outline and certainly a detailed treatment for the new trilogy. That would be the logical, professional, normal way. That's not what they did. They wrote the script for the first one. And then when Rian Johnson came on board, they just said, do whatever the fuck you want. And I was like, I wonder it ended up in such a poor state. And then they had to bring JJ back to try and fix the third one, which was just like,
the second movie was spent undoing the eighth movie was spent undoing the seventh movie, and the ninth movie was spent undoing the eighth movie.
So we ended up with a trilogy that was a real mess.
A trilogy about nothing.
That could have been good, because I mean, the moment where Han Solo died, I screamed in the cinema. It was like, my God, that was a gut punch.
Yeah.
But you know, and then Leia should have died when she got blown into space. That should have been her death. That should have been it. But then we got Leia Superman, and it's like,
but Leia Poppins. You got Leia Poppins.
What's going on here? But I don't know. So ever since I mean, for the prequels, for all their faults, there was a consistent story there, and there are a lot of things about the prequels that I do like. So it's just, I don't feel like somebody sat down, went through this story. These are going to be, because it's 8 episodes altogether, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Please tell me it's not. I don't have to sit through more than that.
No, I think it's 8.
Yep. So it's 8 episodes, and I feel if you're gonna, Leslie Headlands is not an inexperienced person. She has produced her own shows, so she probably is at the right level to be given something like this. But even so, you still should have somebody very experienced, like 50 years in the industry, massive, and this would be your Kathleen Kennedy mentor character, who is saying, yes, okay, that's good, and yes, you can have those ideas, but we're definitely, you're going to need to do this. And I don't feel like there was a steering hand on this show pointing out, actually, that's a bit shit. Don't do that. I don't feel like that there was that steering hand. I just feel like everyone went and got pissed down the pub and thought about some ideas and said, yeah, this is good. Let's go with it. It just, to me, I don't know.
It does have a very fan fiction feel to it, where it's like, oh, we have this, and it'd be real, like you said, it'd be really cool if this character was here, and it doesn't matter because I'm writing it, and it doesn't make a difference because it's never going to see the light of day as a real show, and then it became a show. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. Lance, earlier something Stewart said, and he's right. About bad dialogue. A lot of people tend to forget that when the prequels came out, and we're old enough to remember when the prequels came out, the majority of the internet hated the prequels. I mean, for a long time.
I didn't like them when they came out,
and the
dialogue in them for the most part,
the biggest thing was
awful.
Was the dialogue, because everyone said Lucas can direct, but he can't write dialogue, and you're telling yourself that okay, he made a lot of mistakes with the 6 films. That when you hand over a $4 billion franchise, that the people taking over Star Wars should say, okay, listen, Lucas made these mistakes. We should be doing better than him. We should be learning, because when the first one came out back in 1977, that was 40 some odd years ago. Now we have like a blueprint to make better dialogue. Instead of just keep repeating the same horrible mistakes over and over again. And now in retrospect, it's like, oh, is episode 1, 2, and 3 pretty good? No, but compared to 7, 8, and 9, they're masterpieces. They're still not good films by any means, but in comparison, they're good films. And that's the common trope, is like, well, the dialogue now is bad. Yeah, well, it shouldn't be bad. You had all these mistakes. Stop making the same mistakes, if not worse mistakes, than what Lucas did.
And if you look at the internet now, I've seen so many people going, give it back to George Lucas. You're like, I bet when the prequels are coming out, people, well, in fact, they were. I remember why has Lucas still got Star Wars? Let somebody else have it. And now they're like, give it back to George. It's like, the internet
I'm not one of those who thinks that's a good course of action.
No.
I've always said that there's 1.5 good movies in the 3 films that are in the prequels. There's some great conceptual stuff there.
Yeah.
There is actually, I guess, an anti-hero's journey. It's not a hero's journey, but there is actually a journey there. It just doesn't. The dialogue does hurt it a lot, and since that's our focus here, yes. However, there's very few blatant massive contradictions within the original prequels. There's a couple here and there, but it's not within like a minute of itself. It doesn't happen, and that's where I start to really fall apart with these shows. And this isn't the only one that's done it. A lot of the Disney Star Wars has done it, but we're talking about this, and there's almost no excuse. We just mentioned that it got delayed, which gave them more time to write it, more time to research, more time to make sure these continuity mistakes are not there. They would have had to update some things here and there as other stuff came out, yes, but for them, actually, they probably wouldn't have even had to be honest with you, because this takes place so withdrawn from the other stuff. But instead of that, it seems like to me, it almost feels like they just handed in first drafts of each script. And we're like, well, it's fine. Who cares? No one's watching anyway. 4.8 million.
That's what I was saying is that the Chapek thing, where it's like, right, next, get it out the door, done.
Yeah. Well, and that was the thing, is they like tried to brag about 4.8 million viewers watching it, which 4.8 million people watching anything is, if one of my videos, if tomorrow I woke up and one of my videos had 4.8 million views, I'd be ecstatic as shit. But when you have a subscriber base that only represents 3% of your total subscribers, that's a failure. That means you've lost. You should be, if you're trying to appeal to so many people and you can only muster up 3% of your subscribers, I mean, you should be closer to that 10, 12% is what they should be aiming for.
Okay, go ahead, Stuart. Your sand time is up, Dark Hour. You can go.
Viewing habits are different nowadays, though.
Cool.
There are films that have been in the cinema. I've not yet seen Furiosa. I've just not managed to get there yet. There are TV shows that I've not watched because I choose to save them up until there's a full season and then binge them. Obviously, there's a lot of people who want to watch Star Wars now. As soon as it airs, they need to watch it either because they enjoy it or because they want to kill it. I don't understand those people who have been on board for episode 1, 2, and 3 going, this is terrible. Star Wars is dead. but they're going to watch episode 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You one of them, dog.
That's me.
But you do videos that get 33,000 views,
like-
so I get it. I 100% get it. If my videos got that many views, I'd be watching anything I didn't like as well. But so the viewing figures of how many people watch, they're not the same as they would have been 10 years ago because people watch stuff differently.
I want to talk about the acting a little bit. This has just come up on my timeline. The Many Emotions of Amanda Stenberg. Now, she first came on my radar in the Hunger Games film. Oh man,
Sorry, I can't not laugh at that Keanu Reeves picture right next to it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's an interesting. If you're watching the show, but yeah, the scene where she dies in the Hunger Games. Damn, that's a gets you right in the feels. That scene, and I hadn't read the book, so I didn't know it was coming. You know, it was really well directed. The whole thing with the javelin and everything. So I think she's a pretty decent actress. I've seen her in some other bits and pieces.
What's with Idiot Wirra's costume comment at the bottom? She wasn't hired for her acting range. These are the people that really, really annoy me.
Well, no,
They really do.
Talk about it. Talk about it, Stuart. I'm gonna move you up. There you go.
She wasn't hired for her acting range. What was she hired for then?
I mean, so I don't know. I think this is probably a little unfair. I mean, I think she's a good actress. I think she's okay in the two parts. Do I think the characters could have more contrast? Yes. I think both in terms of how they've been physically realized, keeping in mind that these girls have been apart for a substantially period of time, yet their hair is still almost uniquely the same. One's got slightly longer hair than the other kind of thing, and that's about it. I do think that you know, when people are brought up in different environments and that they move with different people, your voices change, your accents change. If you live in Liverpool for 10 years, you're going to have a Liverpool twang. So I just think all of that shows a bit of a lack of imagination.
The hair thing, though, I get it, because if the hair was totally different, the appearances was totally different, why would they think, hang on, you killed a bunch of Jedi? No, didn't. It was my sister who I didn't know was still alive. You could maybe make an argument for that. They need to sort of look similar.
Yeah, I guess so. I just think it's just a bit naff. I mean, I like her as an actress, so I don't think she's the biggest problem with this show. This is our new villain. Now, my money is actually that this is the mother with the horns from her planet.
They kept saying he in this.
Well, they may well have done. That might be a deception. Now you've said that, I think the show's not clever enough to do that. So, unfortunately,
that would require that somebody actually thought about some sort of fake out.
I'm probably wrong, but don't worry. Episode 5 is going to be wild because this chap says so.
Their version of a fake out is we're going to show someone fall down a shaft and they're going to be alive. That's never been done in Star Wars before. I'm sure of it.
Because I said in episode 1 that I always thought that the villain in this piece was going to turn out to be Darth Maul. I said that from the get-go. And then we got kind of like a female-looking Darth Maul as one of the people bringing up this. And I was like, oh, okay, well, it's going to be her then. So I'm still think it's either going to be Darth Maul or that woman. And maybe they were a couple at one point or something. You know,
it's funny people keep calling this person they call him Smilo Ren.
Smilo Ren. I do like that name. That's quite good.
Yeah.
Stuart, what's your theory on who this villain?
I think it will be a woman.
Yeah.
I quite like SPTs. Either they're going to be the same person or not. Well, good answer there. It's like, what other option is there?
I don't think it's going to be a woman.
No?
I don't think so. I cannot foresee Leslie Headland doing that. I just can't. It's they've already tried to frame basically the Jedi as evil, right? So that's number one. So, and then she has made it very evident in interviews that this is through the lens of her quote unquote queerness that she did this, and that's her quote. That's not my quote. Mm-hmm. And I cannot foresee someone who is putting that as one of the pedestals going, and also the villain's going to be a female. I cannot foresee that.
Good point.
Well, the villain
Yeah.
could be a cool female who's really powerful and therefore very cool.
Darts won me over with that. I'm looking through the queer
Yeah,
eye.
you-
And
I mean-
you won me over.
There's another example of the writing here.
I should probably switch that. Actually, it's actually Dark Hour. I did that as a joke early on, but it's
Darth Hour sounds cool. Sounds
that was just for the intro.
I believe you. I
Oh.
mean, I was a bit like, sort of, what's going on here? That was strange. Okay, that's an
Oh,
interesting.
jeez. I mean, come on.
What's going on?
Well,
there?
I mean, they open. Okay, in fairness, they have opened themselves up to this kind of joking, though. There was, first of all, the horrible interpretive dancing in the third episode. This, what we're seeing right here,
Oh,
is
boy.
That Dark Hour, that may be the case, but I'll tell you now that
I've been doing that the whole stream through the thing below.
the creators behind this show, they love upsetting people. I know I know for a fact that they get off on it because I've been told this by somebody who's close to people involved.
Well, you see interviews.
There is definitely a mean-spiritedness behind this.
Yeah. There's so many interviews you pull up where it's like, like we made the show to piss off straight white males. That one actress has said that, and you're like,
It's worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not pissed me off, but the majority of the internet seems to be a bit grumpy about it.
Well, how straight are you? How straight are you, Stuart?
I think
enough.
I think it's that the Venn diagram just happened to work out that a huge chunk of Star Wars fans were straight white males. I just think that they just pissed off Star Wars fans, and by default they also got that demographic.
So how are we liking hamster hero here?
Badger Man.
Gopher. It's scent gopher. It's space scent gopher.
Stuart, did you want to offer an opinion on Basil?
Do you know what? I Jar Jar Binks was fine. Wicket was fine. Logray was fine in Jedi, and so
we know why he's there.
Size snootles and everything. It's cool. That would sell figures. I would have one of those figures on the shelf.
Sure.
So
I like the way he's got.
So here's the
way he's got knee pads on. I hear that was a casting requirement. So.
So I do have a question about. So they get to that planet, and it was Kofar. Because we got a Kofar to get there. But
oh god,
I guarantee, I can almost guarantee you that was the naming process. And I already told you, Osha May is a soap brand, but so here we go with they are doing this whole thing, like they're tracking it down. They have to do the scent, and meanwhile, May and the guy who should be arrested, it doesn't make sense that he's not. They have like a multi-day head start, and he knows exactly where he needs to go. Like he has it like, we have to go this way, we have to take a left at the the tree that looks like a T. We gotta, like, he's got the whole thing going on, and they still get there all at the same time.
Yeah,
I don't understand that. I don't understand how that could be possible.
Yeah, considering
it's in the script.
Yeah, because the script demands it. Exactly.
Quick! We've nearly hit the half hour. We need to get to the end credits.
And the funny part is that these episodes aren't even a half hour, so you have your 4 minutes of recap, and then I love this about Disney. Since did we lose Lance temporarily?
He's just bathroom break.
Okay,
I watch it again.
I love this about Disney's shows, and it's not just this, because I've watched some of their shorts and things. They have these excessively long credit scores at the end that show you every single language version of it. It's like, and this is the credits in English, and here it is in French, and here it is in like Taiwanese. It's like, why? I don't need to see every language in the known vernacular of humankind shown to me. Just, you could show me that and the Spanish or French. It's fine.
Yeah,
and
you have to pad that runtime.
And that's the thing, is these episodes are actually about 23 minutes long each.
Yeah, the average episode, you're having anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes of credits in a half-hour show. Like,
it's probably like a 2 hour 50-minute movie. Let's chop it up into episodes, and they kind of feel like that.
It would be really interesting to actually edit it into a film and watch it all in one go at the end. And you know what? I might do that just for my own benefit, to see what, if anything, it changes in terms of how it flows and whatnot. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute it's going to save it, but I do think that's a big problem with the show. It doesn't work in these kind of these are almost like comedy vignettes at the end of the news. You know, it's not really, doesn't really feel like it should be. It's got to be a proper 1 hour show, like a Band of Brothers 1 hour, which is 1 hour plus titles. You know, so with titles like 70 minutes nearly. Because Masters of the Air had exactly the same problem, and we reviewed that show on this channel. We did a complete breakdown of it all the way through. We've had people on that worked on it on every episode, and we had Dale Dye on. I interviewed Dale Dye on this channel a few weeks ago, who's military advisor on all of the Band of Brothers shows.
Love that guy. He's amazing.
Well, he didn't hold back any punches. I said to him, "So, Mr. Dye, it's okay if you don't want to answer, but we felt, we reviewed Master of the Air every week, and we felt it wasn't as good as it could have been." Yeah, well, do you know what the word woke means? And that was, and he kind of went from there, and we sort of let him talk, and he let rip, and he said it was in the hands of the wrong people. The producers didn't know what they were doing with it. They didn't understand the show. They didn't understand the type of show it should be. They kept shoehorning one thing and another and another, and yeah, it was a show with a lot of problems. I think understanding what you have is actually fundamentally important. You're never going to be able to make a show that pleases everybody. That's okay, and you shouldn't try and do that. No. But I think understanding what you have and what you're trying to create. So if you're going to do a show about World War II, and it's not a comedy Mel Brooks spin thing, you're trying to do something that's truthful. It needs to be historically accurate. You've got to have good production design. You've got to have good attention to detail. You've got to have good historical advisors. It also needs to be engaging. It needs to be interesting. And if it's going to be accurate, you're not going to be dropping African-American secret agents into Nazi-occupied France, because they're not going to be able to walk around the street, innocuously having conversations with people in cafes without people coming in and beating them up, because that just didn't happen back then. So there
were Tuskegee Airmen, no? They were real.
Oh no! Yeah, the Tuskegee Airmen were real, but they fought in a completely different theatre of war.
Yeah,
and we were talking about that, and we were saying really that they should have just met them in the concentration camp, because they in the prisoner of war camp. Sorry, because they did meet them there. I mean, that's a unit that's deserving of its own show. It's had 2 films, one of which was terrible, and everybody hates it, including I think the Tuskegee Airmen. Which was called Red Tails. It's like one of the worst reviewed films of all time.
I like that film.
I mean, it's I've got it. I own it. But you need to watch the HBO movie, which is called The Tuskegee Airmen, which came out in 1993. It's much better. Hasn't got the same visual effects, but it's much more accurate, and generally is a much better regarded piece. But So I want to know what people are going to give this episode out of 10. People in the chat as well, give it out of 10. And look, like I said, this channel, traditionally on this channel, we try and talk about stuff that we want people to watch, or we want to plug stuff that we think you should see. I actually went into this hoping this might be good. I was hoping I was going to be surprised. We reviewed Masters of the Air expecting it to be good. It started off good, and it kind of lost its plot a bit, went off the rails, and ultimately wasn't the show it could have been. This is this is on a different track. We've got an interesting rating here, 69 out of 10. Oh no, wait,
that's
is that
negative 69.
But
you
the
can't
guy,
do minuses.
The person that's giving it minus 69 out of 10, they're going to watch next week's. Bet they do.
I don't even know how to say that name.
Nerdly UK, who's been on the channel, has given it 10 out of 10.
Go on, Nerdly.
2 out of 10 from Drew Gordon. Okay, so well, Stuart, you're the new guest. So I'm going to let you go
5 out of 10, because it's
5
fine.
out of 10.
It's not great. It's not terrible. I'll be back next week. I'll watch the next one.
Blue, what would you give it out of 10?
I just say a 1. I mean,
Well,
I
what-
just just because I was honestly bored, but there's a lot of continuity issues, and like Dark Hour said, but we'll get into it. And especially we get to see at the end, look, a whole bunch of Jedi's lightsabers, and they push them away. Oh, all right.
Okay. Don't put a comment in the chat if you didn't watch it. And I'm
Wanna see
talking to you. I'm
start
talking to
fighting.
you, Dan. But don't put ratings in if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, Dan.
Okay, so Sean, Acolyte, 3 or 4 out of 10. The setup and backstory is weak. Okay.
I would say the only thing, I'm not going to give it a 1. And the only reason I'm going to give it like a 2 or a 3 in that range is because I think that Lee Jong-jai is doing a really good job, especially considering the fact he doesn't really speak English. Like
No,
he learned it for the role.
He learned
So-
English
Yeah.
for the role. I think he's perfectly fine.
I think that of the characters, he's first of all, he's taking it way more seriously than most of them. Like we
Yeah.
highlighted Amanda Stenberg is like the same person for 2 different characters, and but I just him alone I feel is holding it up. There's still a possibility things could be fixed by the end.
Yeah.
It's a slim possibility, but it still exists. But and he's most of the reason. I will say that.
What
Yeah.
have they got to do to fix it? What do you think they could or should do for you to get to
I'd
the
have-
end and go,
I'd have
Actually,
to really
I-
sit down. So first of all, they need the rest of it going forward. They need to clean up all these continuity mistakes. They have to, like, if the rest of the show doesn't have any continuity errors going forward, that's a huge upgrade. Number 2, I need to see more out of the other characters. I need to see more out of them emotionally. I need to see, like, right now they almost all feel like just very blank, other than the one I just mentioned. They all just seem like very blank slates that don't have any personality. You know, I don't know the guy's real name, but Yord, I'm like, what? Who are you? Like show me something besides I'm here and I'm a Jedi. You know, same thing with, I keep calling her Jedi X-23. Because I don't know her actual name. I think it's like Jenki or something like that, or Jeki.
is that the pad one with the little horns?
Yes,
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
done very little. Like her big crowning moment was she was flying the ship in episode 2, and she sounded bored doing that. And it's just, I'm not seeing it. There's a clear lack of chemistry with a lot of these actors, and I think that would really help as well.
Fair enough.
Hey, Lance, you want to pull this up for me just real quick?
Yeah, sure.
This is my favorite shot in the episode, and this is more stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I like this shot.
Give me more like that. That looks good.
This was clearly trying to channel Lord of the Rings, 100%.
Well, this is, I'm pretty sure this is in Wales.
Well-
Because a lot of the Acolyte was shot in Wales. I don't know if you knew that, Stuart.
I know that a lot. I know that they film a lot. Disney films a lot of their stuff in either Australia or England for tax.
Yeah, well,
purposes.
I believe a big chunk of the Acolyte was shot in Wales. I don't know about post production's probably done in California, but yeah, a lot of it was shot in Wales. And if you look in episode 3, there's quite a few sort of, shots in very valleys with very steep sides, very, very much a Welsh landscape. And then what they do is they CGI all these kind of foreign trees in the background. So you've got a foreground plate that's real, and then you've got a background plate that's CGI. So there's probably something similar going on here. Because
this is starting to this is explaining.
This is a real location right here.
Starting to make sense to me why RRT and Zed speaks Narnian, because that's what it looks like they are.
Yeah. James,
that's an old running gag.
James says there's no sheep. Well, they CGI'd out all the sheep. See, so that little hamster. That little hamster.
That's where that 25 million went. So okay, I got it.
Yeah.
I gave the last episode 4 out of 10, and I went through the kind of things that I gave it a point for, and the things that knocked off a point for me. So I'm going to do the same this week to keep it consistent. So I give it a point for cool bad guy showing up at the end. I mean, don't know anything about them yet. They kind of look like Spawn. It's not particularly original, but they did turn up and they were really cool, and they were, like just fuck off Jedi, and just kind of sent them all. I thought that was quite a cool moment.
The
maybe
Christmas
'cause
tree looking lightsabers were fun too. It was
yeah,
like
you know,
different-
so cool Jedi. I give the actor and the character of Soul a point because I think his character is the only one who I'm sort of and I'm having trouble attaching myself to him because it's such an uncomfortable role for the guy to play because he's obviously very uncomfortable with the language. But sterling job considering. So
Yeah.
got to give him some props for that. I give it another point for the visuals. Overall, it looks fine. Some of it just looks very, CGI, but it's not shot in the donut, is it? So that 360
The volume,
thing,
yeah.
I call it the donut. It's not shot in the donut, so
in the earlier episodes you could see that they did a lot of stuff on the sound stages, but
yeah, there was a couple of shots in episode 1 that were really like, oh god, it's just
almost
like
almost
a couple of
everything in
rocks and a green screen, and that's it.
yeah, the Coruscant scenes and anything on like a desert planet seems to be
Yeah.
on it's the only things that seem to be on location are forest shots.
I mean, I'll tell you what, I might give it another point for the fact that we're not on a desert planet in
Yes.
this show, which is good. But I think that's probably all I can score it for. I've got to give it -2 for the writing. The writing is terrible. The dialogue is atrocious. I don't think the characterization is deep enough. I think that there's a lot of wasted. If we compare this to House of Dragon, which I know gets longer screen time, but if you took 26 minutes of that show and 26 minutes of this show, and you put them side by side, and you listed the characters that are in those 26 minutes, right? And you listed the information or the character traits that you learn about those people in that time, I guarantee you at the end of that 26 minutes, you will have a big meaty list for House of Dragon, and you'll have a very thin list for this. And you know what? Maybe we should do that. We should do a House of Dragon and watch party, an Acolyte watch party, and put that to the test and see how it pans out. Because it's one of the things I teach on my writing courses. Every line of dialogue the character says is a slave to one of two masters, and it will tell you one of two things. It either tells you something about the plot that you need to know about the story, or it tells you something about the character that is speaking. For example, do they have a good sense of humor? Are they being sarcastic? Are they being a bit mean? Are they being a bit selfish, etc., etc.? So it either advances story or character. Every line of dialogue should do one of those two things. That's just basic screenwriting 101, day one stuff you learn on, your first 10 minutes of any writing course, if your tutor is worth their salt. And we're just not getting that here. The dialogue in House of Dragon is so economical in the sense that, I mean, there's quite a lot of it, but the lines are very short. The scenes are very short, but they pack into that. They pack so much into that very economical scene. There's so much, and there's always details in production design in House of Dragon that are telling you more about the characters, the way that people react to things in the room that they're in, stuff like that, the way that somebody looks at the statue of the old king, things like this. There's very little of that going on here, mainly because most of the time they're not in a real environment that they can react to beyond a couple of twigs and so on. So, what Darth Plato said, no wasted motion. That's another way of looking at it. That's a big problem for this show. And again, I am trying to be constructive. I'm not a hater. I have no interest in hating Star Wars. This is a franchise that I absolutely love and will still love, long after I've passed on to the next one. But I also think that the action so far in this show has been pretty poor. I'll be honest, it's been pretty poor. There's been almost no moments where I felt like the tension of somebody that moment there, bearing in mind we're on episode 4, that moment there at the end of this episode is the first time I've gone, ooh, you know,
It's been very sterilized action, I think is the term.
very, yeah, just very kind of just bland, safe. I mean, a stone castle on fire with a kid running around in it is not action. That's, you know, that's just naff. For me, that wasn't action. It was a bit of tension. Sure, I suppose she might die in the fire, but although that by that point I was kind of beyond caring. But you know, there's not been anybody pulling out laser blasters, and we had a stun gun. Big wow. But yeah, so lack of action, lack of tension. So, you know, also the score for this show is very underwhelming. I'm quite disappointed with the music. What there is feels a bit retreadish. There was some nice bits, I think, in one of the earlier episodes, but on the whole, I'm not even noticing it. And for Star Wars, that's bad.
Because there's no theme, there's no music theme. House of Dragon, you've got the Game of Thrones theme coming at the beginning, and you're in it. With a lot of these Star Wars things now, you're like, where's the Star Wars theme? Where's the crawl?
It's because they've removed it.
Yeah,
and House of Dragons got its own themes within themes as well. Like the different houses have got slightly different music scores. If you listen, there's detail like that. I don't think that the creators are sitting around and thinking about those things. Oh, you know, the Wookiee planet guy, and he's just dead, right? That Wookiee guy. She went in and he was dead.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest problem with the show in terms of character development, is that they just introduce characters to die. And they've done it multiple times now. And then they bring them back in a flashback, but it doesn't really matter because we know that they're dead. In my review, I pointed out how many times it's happened. Each episode has had somebody introduced and killed within that same episode at least once.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree with James. I'm agreeing with James Woolard. I think it's a kid show. And I know Star Wars, in essence, is for kids. We were the kids that watched them in the cinema, whether it's prequels or whether it's the original ones like me.
Yeah.
But we've all grown up and we still watch it. But
I
access point for the kids.
Okay, well, I'll argue this point with that, which is I thought Rogue One was fantastic. I didn't think it was flawless, but I did think it was good. And there were several moments in that show, particularly the last half an hour, where I was like, God, this feels like Star Wars again. This is great. And I was on the edge of my seat in that battle, and the battle's going one way, and then it goes another way, and then it goes another way. And it really had a lot of great tension. For me, that was a good film. For me as an adult, I don't know what kids thought of Rogue One because I didn't ask a lot of them, I'll be honest. But the really good writing and a really good show. You can please both. I think it is possible. It's doable. But it's is it a good kid show? I don't know. I haven't canvassed enough to find out.
I'm not canvassing kids.
I don't.
There's
think
registers
that,
for that.
But Stuart, do you have children? Do you have children? Are they watching?
No, I don't. But my partner, she's got grandkids, so I may actually start doing a bit of a survey. But here's a quick question for you. So obviously Disney, Star Wars, Disney, Marvel. We look at something like Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War, and then we look at something like Ms. Marvel. To me, The Acolyte feels more, and I enjoyed Ms. Marvel, it feels more Ms. Marvel where kids could watch that one, and it's not as adult-orientated as something like Infinity War or Endgame.
They don't need to be mutually exclusive, though. You can still have a well-written story that appeals to children. That you can still not have these huge plot holes and inconsistencies and appeal to children. They don't need to be. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And that's where I kind of draw the line. There's a lot of things. If you want to use the argument that Star Wars was always meant for children, then yes, but you go back and Empire Strikes Back, very well written film. If it was meant for children, it was still well written.
It was. So, I was 9 when I saw that at the cinema when it first came out, and I'm like, I was a kid, and it was great.
Yeah.
So. Well, everybody knows, the whole. I just watched Inside Out 2, which is blown up at the box office. But
I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see that.
Remember the days of Toy Story, Toy Story 2? Those are in some ways, they may be marketed towards kids, but everybody here, you can watch Toy Story. It doesn't feel like a kid's film.
Most of the Pixar stuff's like that. We've been rewatching all the Pixar stuff, and we watched Lightyear last night. So that's how far we're up to. We're only like 2 or 3 behind. And they're kids' films, but they hit adults. So it does go to what you guys say. It works on both levels.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, actually, I noticed on your timeline, Stuart, which always has interesting tidbits on it. One of the few Facebook timelines I actually read. I don't know if you want me to put it up, but you just put up the worldwide box office today, and actually I've got it here, so let me do it. One of the things you were saying about, hey, sequels are successful.
Yeah.
If we look at the worldwide gross currently for 2024, Dune Part 2, Godzilla, which any Godzilla film is a remake. Kung Fu Panda, I've never got into Kung Fu Panda. It's not for me. Kingdom of Planet of the Apes, also a remake. Inside Out 2 sequel. Bad Boys sequel. Garfield sequel. Ghostbusters. So Bob Marley.
Garfield's a reboot, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Bob Marley and If, I think, are the only
original films.
Yeah. I mean, Garfield's not original content, so it's a remake of whatever.
Honestly, these numbers are considering what a lot of these films cost is pretty atrocious, though.
Yeah. Oh no. I accept
but
that.
whenever I'll periodically put this, the updated version of that on my timeline, and someone always jumps in going, "Oh, these films don't make. We want original films. We're sick of sequels." Well, Inside Out 2 is a sequel and has just taken all the money in the world. Bad Boys has done really, really well. That's a sequel. So
I've never subscribed to the whole it has to be a new IP. I'm okay with it being something. I'm okay with a good reboot. I'm okay with a good remake.
As long as it's good. It just needs to be good, exactly as you said.
Or a good sequel, even if it's 20 years too late, kind of thing. I'm still good. I'm still cool with that.
I mean, honestly, as soon as I came out of the cinema seeing Inside Out, the first time I saw it, I remember turning to my friend. The first thing I said was, "God, that was good. I hope they do a sequel to that." Because I just thought, do one when she's getting older. That's going to be great. Do another one when she's an adult. That's going to be great. Do another one when she's the parent.
Yeah,
the mileage there, it just never ends. They've got to do the whole circle of life.
I will say this, by the way, Lance and everybody, that I don't think we're going to see a above $1 billion film this year. The only one that I think might have a shot is Deadpool 3.
Yeah,
Inside Out 2.
I don't think it's gonna hit $1 billion. I don't think it's gonna hit $1 billion.
Yeah, no, I agree with Dark Out because even like
I think it'll get close, but I don't think it's gonna hit $1 billion. I thought Dune 2 was gonna do it. But
no, because the first 2 Deadpools didn't break. I mean, they did very well, but $1 billion, and because there's all kinds of factors. Is this going to be an actual good film or just Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman with endless cameos? Is going to have rewatchability? Do people want it? Also, the biggest factor with Fall Guy. How long before it hits digital? A week, 2 weeks?
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's killing.
Studios need to knock that on the head. Furiosa's coming out next week on digital. That's
not even just the studios. That's actually the theater association needs to get involved too, because they pushed against that for decades. Against early distribution, simultaneous distribution, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So just before we go, and I just want to thank my panel for coming on. Thanks, especially for Stuart coming on at last minute.
Thanks for the invite. I'm like, go on.
Lovely to have Dark Hour on again. It would be great, actually, Stuart, if you want to come on for the next one of these. It would be great to have you back because I don't like to have everybody singing from the same song sheet. I say that. I think it makes for a really boring stream.
Don't tell anybody this is a secret, right? But I've had more fun chatting to you guys than I did watching the Acolyte today. But
a bit of sad news. I've just come in. British actor Steve Sweeney, who I know has actually passed away. This has literally come in as we've been streaming. He was in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. Not a close friend of mine, but a close friend of a lot of friends of mine. And he did come and see a couple of my plays. So very sad to hear that he's passed away. He played the excellent character of Plank.
Cool voice. Always has a cool voice, Steve.
All right, Lance, I'll come and see your play, mate. Okay. Yeah, sort of spoke like that, and he was a proper character. And if you got in a lock-in in a pub with him, it could be, it would certainly be a night you'd not forget in a hurry, yeah, sad to hear he's no longer with us. So rest in peace, mate. And another one bites the dust. Sadly, he's not gonna get any less of those as we get older. Sadly, but that's the way of it. Stuart, do you want to plug anything, mate, before you go?
Nope, I'm plugging you, Lance, because I've, you and I have swapped lots of messages and stuff on Facebook over however long it's been.
I think this is. I don't know if we've ever met in person. Have we?
No,
Have we?
we
No,
haven't. Well, technically, we still haven't, but
yeah. Okay.
the force is strong with you guys. So I'm plugging all you lot. I've nothing to plug.
That's
I don't
very...
get paid for what I do, so I don't care.
What's for, from pagetoscreen.com? Is that your website?
That's my website, my podcast, my pretty much any social media is from page to screen.
Well, do check out
so I'm everywhere.
Check out Stuart's podcast and whatnot, and go and check it all out there.
My YouTube channel would be nice, but I want some subscribers. So for page to screen, funnily enough,
we've got quite a few things coming up. I'm doing an interview with actress Nikki Marshall. I think that's going to be on the 26th of June. I'm just waiting for her to lock that in with me. For anybody who's not sure who she is, I'll just pop up this image. So she's coming on next week, hopefully, all being well. She just directed the film on the left, Summer of Violence. She had fantastic recurring guest roles in The Shield, Chicago PD, SWAT, so on. And that's just 4 of the shows of the 76 credits that she's got on IMDb. So I'm really looking forward to interviewing her. Another actress of a very similar caliber called Maluna Jackson has been in touch with me. We've been trying to sort out a date. She also messaged me today, so I'm hoping to lock her down. I still haven't heard back from Michael Ironside. Michael Ironside agreed to come on. I know. And,
my idol.
If you want, he's gonna be at a convention near me in July. If you want, I'll go walk over there, and I'll just be like, "Hey,
tackle him.
Go tell Lance."
Do you know what? I mean, I'm 99.9% certain that it genuinely was him. I had a very long email exchange with him, and he was actually asking me what were his favorite films, performances of his, and so on. And I went into them in great detail. So. If it was someone who was trying to fleece me for money, that might be why he backed off. I don't know. Yeah, so we've got Band of Brothers on Sunday, of course. Tomorrow night, myself and Dark Hour are both going to be on the Drinkers 100 episode open bar. So we're both going to be on the Critical Drinkers channel, the man who's recently hit 2 million subscribers.
Yeah.
So me and him were out on the Raz last night. That was a lot of fun. Because he had a meeting in London, so we got to hook up. So it was good. So that's going to be a mega stream. I don't think we're all going to be on it at the same time. There's going to be people dropping in and dropping out and all the rest of it. But I should be coming on there about 10 o'clock, I think. So I've got a 10 o'clock slot. That's all I know. Yeah. So Blue, do you want to plug anything quickly?
Tomorrow I want to go watch and do a live reaction of the Bike Riders. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Because I'm tired. I do get tired. Like being Dark Hour. We don't want to keep crapping on everything. I want to be excited for stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing the Bike Riders.
Well, I mean, as you know, predominantly on this channel, we focus on reviewing stuff that we like. We do the Nielsen ratings every 10 o'clock on Tuesday nights, which unfortunately is after Stuart's bedtime. Otherwise, I'd invite him to come on. But Stuart, if you ever are up late and you can't sleep and you want to come on, we do that every Tuesday. So, and we talk about stuff we've seen that we think is good, predominantly. So we generally don't talk about the Acolyte on Tuesday, just to say. But we do talk about stuff we think is worth watching. I have just finished watching Scavenger's Reign, which is on Netflix. Now, if you want to watch some original science fiction, I highly recommend it. It is very, very good.
It's original.
It's very original. It's really strong writing, and it's just a classic show. So highly recommend. Darth, anything else you wanted to plug on top of the usual? Apart from tomorrow, obviously. I know you've got your video
tomorrow. I'm gonna be doing a follow-up video, probably episodes 4, 5, 6. I like this format of not doing each episode individually.
Yeah.
This upcoming Saturday, we have a Two Hose episode for Kickboxer, the Jean-Claude Van Damme film, which has several people who you guys might know. Plus, my old Muay Thai instructor is going to be in there as a expert guest. And then about 2 weeks after that, I have an interview scheduled for the channel with the director of the film. So,
which
David Worth. David Worth.
You've got David Worth coming on.
Yes, I do.
Oh man, he's done some good stuff, man.
Yeah, he was also involved with Bloodsport and a couple of other legendary martial arts films. So.
Nice.
Well, I'll give you a list of questions that I.
Hey, any questions you want to send my way?
He's a DOP, not just a director, but he's a DOP because he's got 44.
Yeah, cinematographer and photography.
Yeah. Of his, because he was DOP on Clint Eastwood's Bronco Billy, so he's worked with Clint Eastwood. So I mean,
he's worked with a lot of people.
There's a question for you, like right off the bat. What was it like to work with Clint Eastwood? But he also directed Shark Attack 2. So obviously, I'll have loads of questions about that.
And the man with I just pulled up his IMDb right now. Just the man with the screaming brain. I want to ask about that one.
Oh yeah,
the man with the screaming brain.
That's Bruce Campbell.
Oh shit! Do you know what he directed? This is one of my favorite. Stuart will know this movie. This is one of my favorite kind of, Mad Max 1980s ripoffs. I don't know if you saw this, Stuart, when it was out. Warriors of the Lost World.
I have not with Bob Ginty. No, I haven't seen that one. No.
And Fred Williams. Do you know what? It's one of the better ones. It's one of the better ones. It's got it's a little bit more inventive. It's got some, it's not just 6 guys running around on bikes. It feels like there's a bit of an army in the movie. And this has only got like 2.7 on IMDb, which I feel like it should get 3 points for quality cheese alone. It's definitely better than an episode of The Acolyte. So I feel that score is unjust, but maybe I'm looking at it with rose-tinted glasses and I need to watch it more recently. But yeah, Dark Hour, your buddy directed that. So I'll have at least 20 questions about Warriors of the Lost World. Fantastic. All right, guys. Well, that's going to be cracking. What date is that? When's that coming?
It's the 7th of July, I believe.
7th of July. Fantastic. All right, I'll stick it in the diary. Stuart, thank you very much for coming on. Blue, Dark Hour, thanks very much for coming on. All those people, thanks for watching. If you're not already a subscriber for the channel, please do subscribe. And we will see you all again real soon.